Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette. We're so glad you're with us today to stay curious. I am very excited to have these gentlemen beside me. Beside me is Sergio Palumberi. Sergio, good to see you, and Luca Anniciello. And Slaughter Dad, I'm sure, good enough. But Sergio and Luca, my new best friends, they are actually working for the European Space Agency to launch Axiom 4 with a Polish astronaut that you're supporting here. And we're going to hear a little bit about the mission within the mission. That we love how the ESA has their own little mission logos for what their astronauts are doing up there. And Luca, Sergio is mission manager, and Luca is the training lead with the astronauts. And Luca's got a little program that we're going to end with talking to us about training. So, gentlemen, welcome to Stay Curious.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
You've been touring a little bit our museum. What's your reaction to it, Sergio?
It's really cool. I like it a lot.
You like it a lot?
Yeah, and I it's a weird thing because I was not even aware this thing existed, and you have so much real stuff from the ground segment and it's like not they are not props, they are the real
No, they're not props. And don't feel bad, there's people that lived here 10 years driving up and down past us that have never been in here. On there. And Luca was in here yesterday. I got a picture of the two young ladies you were with here. We'll talk about them in just a second. But Luca, your reaction to our humble museum?
I'm also very impressed. I'm a space enthusiast too. I mean, I think everyone who works into the space business actually is, and being here is so cool. You have so much great stuff in display. It's really impressive.
Yeah, I'm grabbing their hands and running them around and saying, hey, you got to see this, you got to see this. There's so much there. But we're inside the cupola out there, weightless in outer space and so forth today. With these gentlemen, and how's the Space Coast been to you today? You ate a couple good fish meals here?
I actually arrived yesterday night, so I'm still a bit jet lagged.
Oh, okay, still jet lagged there. Well, thanks for coming, and I'm going to give a big shout out here just a second to somebody that we're grateful for to bring you all here. Marty Winkle is on our board. Those of you joining us from Europe, we've been doing this 5 years. This is, in fact, our episode number 1,302 in 5 years, born out of the pandemic. Yes, we do it Monday through Friday. A lot of people say, Mark, why don't you cut back? And the reason is we never know when people like you are going to show up in our museum here, and we can have you on as guests. But it's important to talk about space history every day, and we celebrate what's happening on this date in history. Yesterday we had two space shuttles a year apart that were launched. STS-40, and no, they're like 12 years apart, 11 years apart. STS-40 in 1991, and then in 2020 something was Peggy Whitson's first flight on STS. I call it 3 Aces 111. Was her first flight, and this is her 5th flight going to space when we launch her off Tuesday morning. We give astronaut birthdays, and we have a lot of great guests, including space workers. So check us out on the American Space Museum's YouTube channel, and you'll see over 1,000 shows there. Marty Winkle has been part of this with me since the beginning. Hi, Marty. Say hello to everybody out there.
Hello, everybody out there.
All right. I brag about Marty. He was one of the lead electrical engineers on the lunar modules that are on the surface of the moon. He knew all about being inside the ascent stage and changed batteries and all kinds of things on that. And then he worked 30 years on the shuttle with the SSME engine. So we're always honored that this is what our museum's about, guys, is actual space workers still telling the story up there. So we're welcome you all to have your questions to these gentlemen, though we'll give a shout out to you here every once in a while. We're going to we've got Mitch Rothman from Colorado's on there. Hello, Jubilee. We've got Carlton Bailey's watching locally. Tom Celentano's up in Connecticut. And if you got a specific question, Marty will be watching for that. We got one already, Marty?
Yeah, it's for you, Mark. Are your old episodes still on YouTube?
The first year mostly is on Facebook, and you can go to Facebook and look at our video there. We had to reach 1,000 subscriptions to put this on YouTube, and so we've been on YouTube for over 3.5 years. So the early ones are fun. We put as much into them, and when I look back at ones 4 or 5 years ago, Marty, we stayed true to our commitment about space history, and we love that. So we also have interviewed, we figure, about 175 space workers, a dozen astronauts, and I love talking to the astronauts, but I really get jazzed up talking about people like you, because you don't have an opportunity to share your story with the general public. We know you go home to your wives and significant partners, and they go, I know you work in space, you know. Am I right?
My wife works in space as well. So
Oh, okay.
I'm doing.
So there's a lot of pillow talk between you two.
We have
about-
actually done a mission together.
Which one?
It was expedition 45, 46.
Oh, and we're up to Expedition 73.
Yeah.
So, hello to your wife. What's her name?
Daria.
Nadia. Hello, Nadia.
Daria.
All right. Hello. Maybe we'll get you on Stay Curious one day there. Well, let's rack up a few pictures here. And we know we got 3 people here, so when we go full there, I like showing who's parked at the International Space Station right now, so to speak. You've got the Crew Dragon 10 up there. We've got our Crew Dragon 10 astronauts were launched March. So they're into their... they're about 90 days in space at this point in time. 4 astronauts up there. We've got the Soyuz 27 up there that took up 3 astronauts, and I'm looking for Johnny Kim is the American up there with 2 Russians. They were docked up there April 8th. So April, May, June, they're spending their about 65th day up there in space together. And and then you got a Progress 9 and Progress 90 up there, 91 and 90, that were supply missions that are much needed up there, always. And then they're going to dock the Axiom 4 spacecraft over by the Kibo, you said.
No, they're gonna dock over the Node 2. So
Okay,
the zenith
at
of-
the top,
yeah.
yep, at the top up there, Node 2. And then they'll get to look out the cupola at those spacecraft out there. So always an interesting graphic that we share. Here are the friends that were in here with you yesterday. Please tell me their names and hi
So
to them.
Francesca Castagna, who is an increment engineer, she worked actually with Sergio.
Yeah, so she's like, we have the mission management team, and in the mission management team is like, in ESA is 3 of us. There's a mission manager, there's a mission engineer, which is Francesca, and there is like the complement research manager, which is like the science person. Which,
Okay.
so Francesca is basically supporting me in the whole mission management.
And she's the foreground one.
Yeah.
she's
And
the
then
first-
in the middle,
just here. And here on the other side we have Alessandra Vallo. She is crew support. Actually, she is crew support for this mission, especially for Axiom 4. She is supporting right now the family and the visitors of the crew and throughout the launch campaign.
I saw pictures of her getting off airplane in the COVID days with
Yes.
a mask on there, or maybe she wears a mask for the over there. And you may have heard a siren. Yes, we are in our studios in the American Space Museum, and we're just 9 miles away from where that Falcon 9 with the maiden flight of the 5th Crew Dragon is poised right now. So we're just 3 blocks away from the shores of the Indian River, an awesome place that I encourage you guys to go check out. In fact, afterwards here, maybe we'll go get a bite to eat. We didn't have a chance to talk about that. But thanks for visiting us yesterday. And then we have these 2 were in here also yesterday. Tell us who they are.
So Claudia, which is the one here,
On the left.
she's a Columbus flight director. So she's basically the counterpart to the Houston flight director. So on ESA we have the Columbus module, and like she's one of the flight directors on ESA side.
Okay.
While the other one, Bimba,
Bimba.
yeah, she actually sounds Italian, but she's German, and she's a flight surgeon. So she's the
Okay.
deputy flight surgeon of Swarosh. And she's basically her doctor, one of his doctors.
Well, it's a
Sorry.
pleasure meeting them. And, speak up a little bit. We got one microphone here in our humble studio here that we're using. But we certainly thank Alex Carl, Kel. Thank you so much for telling these gentlemen and women about the American Space Museum. I met Alex probably about 4 years ago. We'll have to look up what was the first mission. He just came in here as a guest. I talked to him, and we become instant friends over this. And we've done some Zooms with him in Cologne, and actually he was in. He's a big into asteroid day, and planetary defense, and he's part of that conference in South America. I think it is. No, it's in Africa. I think later in the year there. So hope to catch up with you, Cal, here after the launch maybe, because I know he's going to be busy Monday and Tuesday. What a great week we've had here. We love the energy around crewed launch days, and I've learned not to say manned. I say crewed all the time, okay? So thank you, Alex, for bringing these wonderful people here to us. So we're going to show you some of the ESA astronauts that have recently gone up, a little bit about quickly the training facilities, but then Luca's he's got a PowerPoint program presentation that you're going to enjoy that we want Sergio to chime in as much as he can. So these are the current crop of ESA astronauts, right, Sergio?
So these are the new generation. So
Okay.
they were just selected last year,
Uh-huh.
and 2 years ago now.
Yeah,
2 years,
22,
yeah,
yeah.
2 or 3 years. Yeah, no, time flies.
Yeah.
When you work space, time flies.
It does. It does.
So yeah, of these crew, Sophie, the one on the left, she's French, and she's Sophia Denot, and she is planned to fly in 2026. She will be the new one of the new class of these astronauts.
How many
the
ESA
first one to fly.
astronauts are currently in I saw about
About
12.
10, yeah, about 10,
10.
yeah,
Okay,
around
I
10,
didn't
10,
pull up
yeah,
right there.
something like that.
European Space Agency is actually how many countries, Sergio?
Difficult
That's a good
question.
They keep growing,
20. I think
I
it's
think
around
around
20,
20.
Okay,
around 20
20.
member states.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
We just added Slovenia very recently, so we continuously increase the size.
we gotta
of
get
the-
Slovenia in there
Yeah.
for sure.
So
Absolutely,
there
there.
is Slovenia is the last member
And
state that was added.
that's my way of asking the European community, how do they look at their astronauts?
It's we are very international, and so I think what happens mostly is that in every country they will know their astronauts very well, and they will be stars in
Yeah.
these countries. There's not so many. Like here in the US, you have so many astronauts that it's not so good
Yeah,
anymore to be
Almost
astronaut.
300.
Right. While in Europe, they've been so few that, for example, in Italy, Samantha and Luca Parmitano, they are stars. They cannot go around without being stopped at the
Samantha
stop.
Cristoforetti and Luca Palamento.
Parmitano.
Yeah, Palmentano. You're gonna see some pictures of him in your slideshow there, and his life was kind of saved by the Navy SEAL. Who am I thinking of? That his spacesuit was getting water in it
Yes.
in there.
There was a leak.
So we're not here to talk about all that. We're here to share how these Europeans are here in America launching 3 rookie Europeans with one of the most veteran astronauts there is, Peggy Whitson, who was inducted into the Hall of Fame last weekend. And she had to do it by video on there because she was in quarantine. Here's the Cologne.
Yeah, it's the astronaut center, European Astronaut Center in Cologne is actually the home base of the European astronaut. They are all based here, there in Cologne, and we have our training facility. So
We're going to see pictures of that here.
yes.
in
So
there.
in the space station, every agency partner participating is basically responsible for training their part of the hardware. So that's why here in Cologne we have the Columbus trainer, where we train the crew to use and operate Columbus. Plus we have all the experiment that they will perform on orbit, and we train all USOS crew member on also our experiment.
Okay. I was looking at some of the notes here. Hi, Tom. Yeah, of course we got to get your name out there, buddy. The support that the UCX give us there. He said his name appeared on the bottom there. Just we got 3 names to put up there. Marty, don't worry about mine up there. Sergio, where are you based out of?
I'm based in Munich,
Munich.
at the
Okay.
Columbus Control Center. It's actually, the name is Oberpfaffenhofen, of this small town 10 kilometers from Munich.
Uh-huh.
And that's where the operations of the European part of the space station is carried out. So in Cologne, we have the European Astronaut Center, where they do the training and the medical part and all the astronaut, let's say, part, while the operations are done in Munich. And so as mission manager, I'm basically based there. So we are, in principle, the interface to Houston.
Okay, I may say something maybe out of sequence in a way, but I want it's popping in my head and I don't want to forget. NASA says we're going to deorbit the space station in around 2030. Okay. How's that settling in ESA? What's
I mean, I can talk for myself. I don't know I cannot talk for ESA in general, but like it's a pity. Like I think we have been living the last 20 years something that I don't know if we'll ever live again. Like we have had humans in space every single day continuously for 25 years. Can you believe that? And like
No.
the amount of science we have done, the research, the technology development, which is not only for space, but coming back to Earth and to improve our life, it's amazing. And everything has to come to an end, of course, if you want to do the next step, which we, the so-called CLD, the commercial LEO destinations, so the space stations by private companies. These will come in the years 2030s. I would love to see that there is no gap between one and the next, but at the moment it doesn't seem to be the case.
Well, and we would never ask a question to put you on the spot or anything. So if I say something out of turn, just say that, and Mark, I decline on that. But go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, Mark, Dr. Keith Soul said the Canadian astronaut Chris Hadfield had the water in his helmet.
Well, Luca had.
No, well, Luca did too, Dr. Keith Sewell. That was he.
And Luca had much more.
Yeah.
Like the same anomaly happened a couple of times.
Chris is the first name of the astronaut that went in.
Hadfield, yeah.
I know Steve Jokums, you know what the incident I'm talking about. Who was the astronaut that noticed Luca was in trouble?
Chris Cassidy.
Yes, Cassidy. There
Cassidy.
you are. There you are.
Yeah,
Chris Cassidy. Thank you,
They
guys.
were
We've got
excellent.
some of the most intelligent, smart viewers on our program, and they will have some great questions for you there. Go ahead, Marty.
Hey, Michael Bruno's asking, do they, meaning our ESA, ESA people, do they think the ISS can be maintained indefinitely?
Indefinitely
Definitely
is a hard word, right? But I think the station itself could live much longer. Like
Yes.
it doesn't have to finish in 2030, and we are now in the phase where it's the most efficient phase of the station because the integration was done 15 years ago, right? And at some point, at the beginning, there was not so much science; it was all putting it together. Now we are using it and we are fruiting it. So we could go sometime longer. Of course, it's a big investment, and it's understandable that if you want to do the next step, at some point you have to decide where to put the money. And unfortunately, ideally you would want to have enough money for keeping the old one and investing on the new one. But yeah, at the moment it doesn't seem to be the case.
Well, we kind of had a hiccup between the Apollo program and the shuttle
Right,
program,
exactly.
like about 7 years that we didn't orbit anybody. And then after the shuttle program, we had to depend
Exactly.
on the Russians.
And
then, so-
I always do the same comparison. Like you would not have the Falcon 9 if you didn't interrupt the space shuttle, right? And when they landed, when they grounded the space shuttle, everybody of us were like, "Whoa, we stay without the space shuttle," and we had no ways of flying astronauts for many years. But like you had to choose to fund the new, you have to stop the old. And
Yes.
probably for the space station, it's going to be the same thing. If we want to have commercial space stations in the next 10, 15 years, we cannot do the two things in parallel, probably.
This may be a friend of yours, Daria Margietti.
That's my wife.
No, that's your wife.
Sure.
Okay. Hey, Daria.
Ciao, Dario.
All right. She says hello all up there. So great that you found us on Stay Curious here. And come to America and we'll get her on the show. Bring her with you. You
We'll
didn't
do
bring
so.
her with you, did you?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the small kids, it was a bit difficult. So
Very good. All right. Well, you see, we're going to have a good time here. Here's a little peek.
Yeah, and you see
We're going to see more of this at the
Yeah.
training center. Luca's going to talk about that here in a second, so I won't leave that up there long. And our friend Alex Carl said this is as a ESA Capcom. They call them Eurocoms. Here we call them Capcoms. Actually talking to the space station from a desk like this. And what I learned from, yes, go ahead, Sergio.
like if you see like this console, and I'm thinking to the console you have in the other room, right, which is basically the same thing. And nowadays we do it with one keyboard and two screens, and down there you have the launcher
Yeah,
consoles,
Cape
the
Canaveral
shuttle,
Gallery
the
you're talking
shuttle
about.
consoles.
Oh, shuttle
Yeah,
consoles,
the
yeah.
shuttle consoles, which are like basically doing the same, but all these buttons and so on.
That was just one
they
piece
like-
of the
yeah.
shuttle too going up there. And what I find interesting is when there's no ESA astronaut up there, you're still talking to other astronauts who are tending, for a better word, your experiments, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the European ESA is 8.3% of the space station, right? So we pay 8.3% of the space station, and as such we get 8.3% of the resources. And so, as a matter of fact, it doesn't really matter in terms of science if we have an ESA astronaut or not.
Correct.
We do science with the ESA astronauts when they are on board, and we do science with the NASA astronauts. We do science with the cosmonauts as well, or with the Japanese astronauts.
Uh-huh. What I find also, which you were talking about, Sergio, is the harvesting of all this data. It's decades worth of analysis for scientists. It's just not. I mean,
So there was a GRIP was one of the big experiments that we did. Was called GRIP graph, human science about the, let's say, motion. And I think the first publication came out like a month ago, but the experiment actually was completed 2-3 years ago. So like it takes years to analyze all the data that we collect in space, and then to publish about it. Like, and there's so much data that there will be publication coming
yeah.
for many years after we deorbit.
Absolutely.
We have also to remember that the space station give a very special condition also to scientists. We were used to shorter duration before the space station. The shuttle allowed a couple of weeks of science. With the station, you can have long duration science, so analyzes more and more data and run experiments that run longer than just weeks. So it's extremely important to have a space station in low Earth orbit to provide this environment to scientists to continue testing and experimenting in space.
There you go. It's why we need to keep it up here as long as we can and not deorbit it there. So here is the mission patch for this Axiom 4. Of course, it's a private company that's investigating building a space station attached to the space station. They were supposed to put their first module up by now, and don't know what the delay is on that. I've seen the plans for everything. A good idea, and hope it comes to fruition that they could be orbiting and separate from the space station with their own power plant before the deorbit happens. Yes, Marty.
You have a question from Steve Holcomb. At one time, ESA was working on a reusable spaceplane called Hermes. Is this project still in play, or is it no longer being pursued?
It's not in play at the moment. The discussion about having a European crewed vehicle is up again. It has been in discussion for the last 20 years, I think. But at the moment, we don't have a program for a human launcher, let's say, a crewed launcher.
Luca, anything to add to that?
No.
Okay. Here's the crew that's going to be launched. There's, of course, 3 rookies with one of the most experienced woman to ever go to space, who is 65 years old, by the way. Peggy Whitson. She'll be the oldest woman to fly in space. She already holds the record at age 63 with her Axiom 1 flight there.
You know about the Peggy factor? We call it the Peggy factor because
The Peggy factor. No, I don't know.
Because Peggy is the fastest and more efficient astronaut ever. So like when we do activities, we calculate how long every activity lasts, right? And so it could be 1 hour, half an hour, every single activity. She do it in half the time.
Oh, really?
Always. She was always the best. And the funny thing is that actually she affects her crew. So when she's a commander, the whole crew becomes crazy efficient. So I hope this will be the case for Axiom 4 as well. I'm telling Swabosh all the time that if he doesn't behave, I'll tell Peggy to go
Okay. Well, that's a great insight there that only these gentlemen can give us here on Stay Curious. Love it. And like you said, Sergio, to me, I'm so appreciative that you guys are taking your time to do this. And Sergio said, Mark, we need to do this more. And we need to do more. And so we're glad that we offer this forum for you guys to share on here. So let's get the crew up there again. I've got their, I pulled my notes over here, and I certainly will slaughter these gentlemen's names here, but the important one that you're dealing with is the ESA there. Okay. Swabish there.
Perfect.
And Swabish, and this is his first space flight. Between Peggy and Swabish, you have the second Indian astronaut to go to space. The first one was Rakesh Sharma in 1984. He got to stay on the Salyut 7 space station, which is a movie I've actually watched and enjoy in there. And then the other gentleman is from Hungary. He's Hungarian. They did have an astronaut fly also in the USSR days. So
in fact, they call Axiom is calling this mission the return, because also Swabosh will be the second Polish astronaut. So they are all of them. They are the second. Like there was a Polish astronaut many years ago. And Swabosh is the second. There was an Hungarian astronaut many years ago. Tibor is the second. There was an Indian many years ago, and Shuks is the second.
Tibor Kapuz, the Hungarian man there. So you guys are wearing these logos here that everybody's noticed. So tell us about that. I'm going to Sergio, because you're going to talk a lot, Luca, on your PowerPoint there.
So this was actually designed by Swabosh himself.
Oh, was?
Yes, together with the ESA graphic people. So the eagle is the symbol of Poland. You have the white and the red, which are the color of the Polish flag, and you have this gray skyline behind the eagle are like a famous mountain chain in Poland. And the stars are the Scutum constellation, which was a constellation discovered by a Polish astronomer.
Yes, those are the
Polish.
Orla Perk mountain range.
The Orla Perk, yes.
Orla Perk mountain range, in a stylized depiction of the constellation Scutum.
Right.
All right.
You should know about it. You are an
I
astronomer,
do,
right?
with astronomy, yes, in there. And and this is a tradition that ESA has had that we're going to share a little bit here. The reason for that with Cosmic Kiss there. And this is the mission of this gentleman. That's Matthias
Maurer.
Matthias Maurer. They picked some. This was one of the first caveman drawings found of objects in the sky by a caveman there, and he called it the Cosmic Kiss. Nothing to do with the rock band Kiss, okay? That I'm sure, and of course the ISS built in there. And there's Matthias there floating around, and is he still an active astronaut?
He is. Yes.
Okay. And then there's Samantha Cristoforetti, and her mission was called Minerva. All right. And that's an owl.
Yeah.
Stylized owl there that she's showing. And so why do these names come about? Well, what's behind the individual patch within the patch?
There's always something, like we try to give a symbol, right? Like, so the mission of Swabosh, ignis means fire. Sorry, I'm pointing the wrong side. In Latin, right? And so this is like supposed to be like the spark to start again to spark the involvement of Poland in science and in space.
Oh.
Right. So Poland has a growing and historical science and technology. They are involved in space, but not so much in human spaceflight so far. And so this is supposed to be the spark that will involve Poland in human spaceflight more and more. So this is not just one and done. The idea is this is just the beginning, and they will cooperate with ESA more and more.
Great. Marty, you got a couple questions?
Yeah, question from Michael Bruno. Any news on Dream Chaser? It should be launched soon, and ESA is working with SNC. I'm not sure what that is.
So actually, Sierra Nevada Corporation. That's the company that does.
Yeah, Sierra. No, I could just call himself Sierra now.
I think actually there's a Polish company that is involved in the mechanism for the docking assembly of Dream Chaser. Actually.
And another question from Dean Babcock.
Right. What is done with the equipment used for experiments on the ISS after the experiments research is completed?
Some we bring down for science reasons. So, of course, we have laboratories on the ISS, but the analysis you can do up there are limited, right? And so you can do some analysis on site on the ISS, but for some stuff we need to bring it down and analyze it on ground. Some stuff is simply trashed. We call it trash, and at the moment the Progress and the Cygnus are the trash vehicles, so they don't re-enter like the Dragon. They destroy in the atmosphere, and so we fill them with the remnants, with the trash, and destroy it in the atmosphere.
Okay. Okay. See, Cliff
So
Watts
some-
has joined us. He's in Pomona, Australia. Good Saturday morning to you, mate, up there. And so another comment from, I want to say hi to some, Chris Calley, who uses his wife's moniker there, Jacqueline, is watching. He's an awesome artist that supports us. He's my screensaver over there, that you may have noticed there. Good Friday to you, Chris. All right, there's Samantha in her sleeping quarters that I want to throw in there. We're thinking of creating a sleeping quarters here in one of our galleries, and they're pretty small there. Just a meter across there to squeeze in there, and about 2 meters tall there, about 3 feet by 6 feet in our system there, and only about a meter deep too. So, and there she is looking out the cupola. Your experienced ESA astronauts, have they told you anything about meditating in the cupola, or just how neat it is?
I think the message that all of them say is that when you are up there, you don't see no borders.
Yeah.
Right? It's like it's one unique planet, right?
Yeah.
And it's our spaceship Earth, right? They call it spaceship. Like in the end, this is where we all live, but it's like a spacecraft.
Yep.
Bringing us in space, and you don't see any borders there. So humanity united.
Well, we have a good friend, astronaut Nicole Stott, who wrote a book, Back to Earth, and in that book she talks about that we're all Earthlings. We all live on a planet, and the only border that matters is that thin blue line that keeps us all alive. And another Stottism that she likes saying is, we need to learn how to live like crewmates, not passengers, and take care of each other on this Earth. So good points to be made there. Here's the, I'm going to show you two other of the missions there. Hugin.
I just want to say, because you were asking the names before, I think Hugin was like one of the best names ever. So Hugin and Munin are the two crows, the birds of Thor, the Scandinavian god, and their job was every day to fly around the Earth and come back and bring knowledge back
To Thor.
And so this is like so perfect for the astronauts. They fly around the Earth and come back to bring knowledge to us.
Okay.
It's like the perfect metaphor.
And that was the
Andy Mogensen.
metaphor for this astronaut. Who's that?
Andreas Mogensen.
Andreas Morgensen. Okay.
From Denmark.
All right. He took his little raccoon or something up there with him, it looks like there. Where's he from?
Denmark.
Denmark. Okay. Denmark up there. And that picture, he just looks strong in that picture in there. Here's the other three astronauts again. I interjected that just to show you that each of the other astronauts, the Indian and the Hungarian, have their own symbol up there in space. There's which is for Hungarian orbit, Hungor. Got some sort of an elk or something on that. And there, you guys know anything about the?
I think it's a deer. Like
Oh, a deer?
we don't have elks in Europe.
Okay. And then the Indian astronaut has this. Gaganyaan is the name of the Indian Space Agency, and there's 4 astronauts training. I hear, and can you verify that India will probably orbit their own astronauts? Do you hear anything about that?
So Gaganyaan is actually the name of the vehicle, not of the space
Oh, the
agency.
vehicle. Okay.
The space agency is called ISRO,
All
Indian
right.
Space Research Organization. Gaganyaan is actually the vehicle that they are developing with which they want to launch and fly their astronauts.
And I'm sure they will.
Oh, yes.
They have a very ambitious program and actually have landed on the moon safely on where a couple other private companies have. Marty, go ahead.
I have a question from Alexandre Mandabach from Brazil. Who is the most experienced ESA astronaut in active duty?
Well,
They are all the same. They all did 2 flights. So I
Exactly.
think like Thomas Pesquet and Luca Parmitano, Samantha Cristoforetti,
Yes.
did all of them 2 long-term missions.
Uh-huh.
I wouldn't know.
Within days of each
yeah,
other.
within days of
really
each
up
other.
there, yeah.
Yeah.
280
Yeah.
In there.
something.
Of course, to ask them, will they fly again? Of course,
And
it's
Alex
like, you know,
left as
how
well.
long is the
Mhm.
space station going to stay up there? Because in 2025, if they're talking 5 more years, we're going to hear from Luca about training and so forth like that, the time it takes. Man, there aren't many seats left, is the way to look at it,
Not a
right?
lot. Correct.
Yeah, and some of these people that your
And this
6
is-
new astronauts you've shown there.
This is one of the ESA top priorities,
Mhm.
to fly all of them. We
Okay.
want to fly all the new class to the space station before the end.
Okay.
But we realize that there's not many seats left. It's difficult, but we are working for it.
Great question there from Alexander in Brazil watching us today. Wow. See, we got Brazil, Australia. We've got Robert Laws up in Dundee, Scotland. He's enjoying his scotch up there at 9 o'clock at night up there. And he's been right here with his kilt talking to us too. Robert Law has. Many of these fans of ours here have been in the
Yeah.
museum,
Mhm.
and we're very grateful for that. There's another inside look at this is part of your program here, Luca.
Yes.
We're now into your slideshow, and you just tell me next slide, my friend, and I'm gonna turn it over here to Luca Anniciello, and again, Luca is the training lead at ESA, and this is your
So,
office.
good. So you see the training goal at the European Astronaut Center on the left. Well, actually, will be that side is the ATV mockup. Was a vehicle that flew 5 times to the space station, like a Progress. We flew them 5 times. We trained the cosmonaut and the astronaut in Cologne. Now we don't train it anymore because the program is finished. What we are mainly doing right now in Cologne is to prepare all cosmonaut and astronaut that fly to the space station to safely operate our ESA module, which is Columbus, which you can see here, actually on that side.
Columbus is
Yeah.
over here.
Yes.
Yeah, Columbus is, if I do here, Columbus is right there. Right?
Correct, exactly.
Okay,
So
okay.
there's this Columbus. It's our mock-up where we train the crew. Plus, as I was saying before, we train all the science that the astronaut are going to perform on orbit.
These were the modules taken up by the International Space Station. I mean, not by the shuttle in the cargo bay. And I actually saw Leonardo through when it was being worked on in the what we call the space station SSPF,
Yeah.
Space Station Processing
Yeah.
Facility.
And you know, we have different class of payload, the big racks, which are in orbit, as you were saying. Then there are small modules that are integrated into those racks and provide power and cooling to the experiment. Or we have even smaller experiment, which can be standalone and run by them in the aisle of Columbus, for example, and giving different level of complexity also in the development of the experiment and the time you need to develop them, basically.
Uh-huh. Well, let's get I'll advance the
Yes.
picture here, and
So what I usually want to share with the people, once the astronaut are selected, they are not astronaut. They are called astronaut candidate because they
ASCANs
exactly.
in
So they
NASA
need
vernacular.
to complete their first part of the training, which is called basic training. And astronauts usually have different backgrounds. They can be pilot, they can be doctor, they can be engineer, they can be scientist. And this means that they come to us with a different background. The basic training is the training which brings them at the same level of knowledge into, I would say, the space topic. They cover biology, aerospace engineering. We familiarize them basically with astronomy. So what we want to achieve is to bring all these different background having the same knowledge of space technology, engineering, and science, and that's what is about the basic training. We cover a lot of basic skill. They do anatomy course. They do medical basic skill. So we cover the basic skill that they will use then in future mission.
Okay.
And the second phase, once they complete the basic training, which lasts around 1 year, is the pre-assignment training. We cover mainly two major training block, which is EVA, so extravehicular activity, one of the most complex activity that an astronaut can do in space. So we start training them early in the flow to get them acquainted with the skill and also the moving protocol outside the space station and the complexity of the task. So they need a lot of practice.
You have a neutral buoyancy tank.
Correct.
Have you done
correct.
that yourself, Luca?
No, I didn't. I'm a diver, but I've never dove in the MBL. But yes, they need to exercise a lot. In ESA we have a small part of the basic training of the basic skill covered also in our pool in Cologne. We also have a neutral buoyancy facility in Cologne, 10 meters deep, and we start also
10
with
meters deep. Ooh,
Yeah.
30 feet.
so
Wow.
we can put the Columbus module inside, and we have them practice, for example, the Tether protocol, which is a standard protocol they use to slide over the handrail that they have outside the space station. So it's really the basic part. And another big part of pre-assignment is robotic training. It's also another activity on the space station that requires a lot of skill to be gained, and we start in this phase the most complex activity they will perform on orbit. After that, you can basically get assigned to a mission, and then when the real, I will call it real training, because you are training with a specific goal, which is your mission. So you start the training on the USOS module, which is the lab, JAXA module, Kibo, Columbus. You start training the experiment. You get ready to any maintenance that you will perform on orbit, and so on. So you can go next. I have.
Well, I was going to just
yeah.
tell our fans out there that we've got these two ESA workers that are Sergio management in there. Luca is training, and usually at the beginning of the show ask people, where'd you grow up? And you notice their accents, so I'm asking you, Luca, where's your hometown? Where'd you grow up?
Close to Naples, south of Italy.
Okay.
I grew up there. I studied in Naples aerospace engineering, and then I moved to Cologne to work with the European Space Agency.
And you, Sergio?
I'm also Italian, but I'm from the north, northwest, so close to the French border, close to Genoa. So seaside as well, but from the north.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to get that in there for your families watching there. And I need to get an Italian flag here, but we got the flags in the cupola there to show up everybody. But so I mean, it's a pretty cool job for your family, right? Do they think you're doing spacey things? What's
Yeah, I think for everyone that do not work in the space business, I would say it's really something that it's like a dream, you know. there's not a lot of people that
Yeah,
is
it's a
working.
small community of
Yeah,
people in
it's
there.
it's a small community, but yeah, it's really like a dream.
And what I always say, like the kids, right, to the students, like it's always like everybody wants to be an astronaut, right? And it looks like the most prominent, of course. The astronauts are like the face of the space business, but there's so many cool jobs in the space environment. Like in the end, astronauts are very few people, right? So it's very difficult to
Oh, of
become an
course,
astronaut.
633 humans have orbited
Right.
the Earth. That's it.
But you can also there's tens of thousands of people that work in the space business and that do very cool jobs, and it can be everything. Like I'm an engineer. I don't know what your background is, but
engineer.
you can be an engineer. You can be a doctor, like we said before for PIBA. So there are doctors that work in space. There are engineers, physicists, chemists, astronomers, mathematicians, software guys. There's even lawyers that work in space because in the end, also space has a law, right? So there's
Yeah.
also lawyers that work in space. There's communication people that work, like the ones who design the patch are artists, right? So like they also work in space. There's so many possibilities to work in the space business.
It strikes me as you gentlemen are like the second generation of ESA space workers,
Even third.
or
Yeah,
what, maybe the
probably
third.
one-third.
Okay,
Yes.
Mark, the third generation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that'd be like with us, Apollo
Yeah.
era, then shuttle era, and now the yeah. There was a lot. You were involved in the earlier some Apollo things in there.
Yeah, it's
British.
50 years, so it's
Yeah.
So actually,
Yeah.
this year we celebrate the 50th anniversary of ESA.
Mhm.
I think it was a couple of days ago.
That
Actually,
escaped me. We'll have to
it
get
was
on
actually
that.
a couple of days ago that it was
Mhm.
the anniversary, and we will celebrate on the 18th of June. So it's coming actually in a couple of weeks.
Well, everybody's enjoying this show, and I know you're learning so much. So stay tuned here with us here a little bit longer as we got Luca's got some more training stuff to show us. Marty, you've got another question?
Yeah, a question from Dean Babcock. He's asking where are two ESA, I keep saying ESA, I'm sorry, ESA guests will be viewing the launch.
From Banana Creek,
Oh,
we go from the bleachers.
okay. Marty's seen a bunch of launches from Banana
I
Creek,
have
yeah?
never seen a launch in my life,
Really?
ever. So tonight, if Sirius
All
If
right.
Sirius launches tonight, it will be my first launch. I've only seen a shuttle scrub. That's as far as I've gone.
Okay.
So I've been working in the space business for almost 20 years. I never managed to see a launch.
Well, I hope it's up to everything you think it will be, and I'll probably be on Cocoa Beach tonight watching the launch over there.
Okay.
Cool.
It's Friday, and yeah, but probably there's actually Cape Canaveral has a street fair called Oh First Night where they'll have booths and a band playing and
Oh,
and food vendors and all that. Maybe we'll go there
We
afterwards.
we might go there.
Yeah, good. It'd be great to go there.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to go there, so I have a date to go there anyway. But I keep saying I need probably take these gentlemen out to dinner tonight. But maybe we'll buy a corn dog or a barbecue sandwich
Yeah.
at the street fair tonight there. So hope you all are enjoying this as much as me. I'm just always thrilled with the energy in our museum come crude launch time. We always have more people come in, but more importantly, we always have a lot of people from Europe come in here, and we think that maybe almost 1/5 of our visitors every year are from Europe or Canada or in Australia. So the word does get out. Tremendous German community comes here. A lot of advertising done for the Space Coast, Florida here in Germany. And of course, me being French with Marquette, we see quite a few Frenchmen in here also. So thank you all for enjoying this program. Luca,
Yeah.
keep going on
So
here.
that's
And
few
tell me if
picture-
there's one we want to skip over.
Yeah, we will go fast through the picture. I mean, this is just few picture of the basic training. You see they are studying in classes, but on the same at the same time we want the crew to experience what it means to being weightless, and we do it via the parabolic
What we
flight.
call the vomit comet.
Yeah, it was called the vomit comet.
Here it is,
Yeah,
isn't
yeah, yeah. So, but
Did
as
you
I-
ever do that? Either one?
I
of you?
did. I
I
did
did.
the parabolic flight campaign, and actually, stuff is not an easy thing to be doing because you do 30 parabolas, so you go up to 2G, 0G, and then again 2G. So your stomach is quite solicited, I would say.
Yeah, I wouldn't eat anything 2 days before I got on there. Yeah, it's probably still vomit up there. Marty, what else you got? Another question on that UCAC family microphone.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm just curious, stay curious. What language do you all speak when you're training these people, when you're communicating with the astronauts?
I mean, English is USOS side communicate in English, so we speak English with the astronaut. This means that also when the cosmonaut come to train at EAC, we speak in English, but you know their official language is the Russian, so that's why all astronaut and cosmonaut that are flying to the space station, they both speak Russian and English.
There's a funny thing about the European Union now that the UK are not anymore part of it. We all talk English to each other, but English is not the native language of any country in Europe, right? We all talk.
But you all
English to
took
each other.
English in
Yeah.
school, huh?
Well, but like with each other, like we live in an international environment, right? We ESA, I mean, UK is part of ESA, right? But like in ESA, the official languages are English and French, but I mean, everybody talks English.
Yeah.
All right.
But
Good
there's many
question,
many
Marty.
Italians, so we talk a lot of Italian as well.
What we're doing in the basic training is also covering fundamental science, I would say. And here we see the new class of astronaut taking classes at the university. On the left, we have thermofluid dynamic classes, and you see the plasma wind tunnel in the bottom for showing some re-entry flow that they would experience with their capsule. And on the right, we have the basic material science classes that they went through. So, as I say, the basic training is very close to a kind of university course also, and there's a lot of study that is going on with the crew. So you can go next. As I say, then we move to pre-assignment, and what we have is the robotic, the basic robotic classes with virtual reality. So basically, they learn how to command safely the robotic arm. It's a very big beast that you have to move around the station. You have to be extremely careful on how you move it, and we don't have to forget that in some extravehicular activity, at the end of the boom of the arm, there is a colleague astronaut, which usually is placed close to a position when they need to work. So it's extremely important to acquire all the skill they need to drive safely the robotic arm.
Yeah,
And
that's a lot of training on that.
it is, and that's why we start.
And that's a robotic
pre-assignment.
arm right there that he's got in his left hand, huh?
They have
training.
the console use basically the right and the left hand. They have a joystick on the right and another of kind of different joystick with the left arms, because they need to coordinate the two movement, because they have several joints to command so that they can move the robotic arm. And as I say, part of the
That's in Cologne. It looks like.
no,
it could
that's
be
actually MBL.
Houston?
That's
Yeah,
Houston.
that's
Okay.
Houston. That's Houston because I mean the main difference we don't have any VA suit in Cologne. So as soon as you see the real EVA suit, they are in Houston. And here we see Samantha. This was an
So you
assigned.
just train as scuba divers in Cologne and not without EVA
Yes,
suits.
we train scuba diver plus a kind of familiarization we give them.
Gotcha.
But then the
Tools
pre-assignment.
and things like that.
Yeah, the how to move tools, how to move around the station, the communication protocol. So really the basic steps that we want that they have before they move to MBL, to the pre-assignment training.
Very interesting.
Yeah, as I said, tool familiarization. That's on the right. You can see how messy can get the tool set they use with on the space station. So they really need to familiarize a lot with the tools and their usage. We don't have to forget the suit is pressurized. So when you move your hand, you are going against the pressurization of the suit. So it's really hard to handle tools, and you need also to practice on this.
Yeah. Dave Stange up in Michigan, he knows throwing snowballs with a glove on all day long. As a kid, your fingertips would get hurt. And did you ever hear the story that Gene Cernan came back from the moon after Apollo 17, and he said his fingertips were raw and bleeding and took months to heal.
I can believe that.
People don't think about little things like that,
Yes.
do they, Luca?
Yes, it's really, from the physical point of view, it's a constant fight. We call it fight against the suit, because, as I say, being pressurized, you have to work against it to perform, and even simple tasks become a bit more complex.
You've seen our Artemis suit there on display. That's a real suit that a local guy made, who has made spacesuits, and you see pulleys and levers in there to help you move. There's some weights in there to help you, because it's mass, and you're exerting your muscles to move that mass. You okay? You got anything to add over there, Sergio?
No, I'm learning. I'm learning from Luca.
Oh, good. Okay, well, there's
And then we move to the assign phase. Assign phase means that you get assigned to a mission, and then we basically start working in training with a specific objective. As Sergio knows very well, we got what we call the requirement document of the mission, and from there we build the training plan, which means that we put together all what the crew and every single astronaut will perform on orbit, and we create the real training program, which the astronaut
This is
goes
where we interface.
Yes.
So I give him
Correct.
the mission requirement document,
Yeah.
which basically is a list of mission objectives,
Yes.
and he prepares the training
Yeah.
requirement documents, which is basically one-to-one. So a list of what needs to be trained based on the mission objectives.
And of course, what we check is which of the requirement we have already training available, and which we will need to develop additional training, because science, for example, is changing every increment. There are experiments which are run for several increments, and this means that the training will be available. But new science, we will need to check if we need to train the crew on this specific part of the experiment, and if we need to train them to develop the training, certify it, and then implement it.
all right.
And yeah, that's an example on different
All the pretty pictures of the
yes,
docking
are
and the usual
different
arm.
vehicle the crew needs to train. Of course, depending on which vehicle you are assigned to, you will get a different training. Either you will train on the Dragon with SpaceX. If you are assigned to Starliner, you will have to train with Boeing on the vehicle. If you are launched on a Soyuz, you will train in Russia with the other two cosmonauts. Then you will need to know how to operate your house, because the space station will become their house for 6 months or even more. Plus, you will need to know how to maintain it, because if you get some issue, you will need to be able to repair it. Some spares, we have it on orbit, and therefore the crew is trained to replace the spare that are available. If they are not, we work with the management team to make sure that spares are launched as soon as they can, and then be exchanged on orbit. So there's a lot of work, even in training, before, during, and for example, this is just something we very often do when we have a new requirement that is coming, because maybe there is a maintenance. We cannot train the crew anymore on ground because they are on orbit. So we developed onboard training, which by now we develop with videos showing the crew how to operate and perform the activity.
You upload videos with examples.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's another case where we interface, right?
Exactly.
Like sometimes throughout, in the middle of the mission, maybe there's some opening of crew time, there's possibility that we want to add some new experiments, but the astronaut has not been trained on it. Or you need to do some maintenance, and maybe the astronaut has not been trained on it. And so this is where we as mission managers need to add that, and we go to Luca and say, okay, this training has not been done. So can he do it without the training, or there's too much risk? So there's an assessment from him or from his colleagues, right? If the astronaut can do the activity without an additional training,
Correct.
or if we need to do an OBT, an onboard training. And so in that case, we will schedule like half an hour to review a presentation, review a video, and train for it.
And I would say by now, before was very special case, but by now you go on YouTube and you search for a video for a repair, right? Of anything. And that's very similar what we have been doing in the past years, and we continue to do with the crew to train them on activity that they have never seen, for example.
So how many times, Luca, do you get do you get that request? Hey, we need the plumbing video sent up because the toilet's clogged again.
Usually we cover that in the standard training. But yeah, we have activity. I think usually I would say an average of one per increment, more or less. There are increments which we have more.
What's an increment time?
Increment is basically 6 months,
An
more or less.
expedition.
Okay, expedition.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So basically, yeah, I would say we develop one OBT.
We're up to 73 expeditions. What did you start with?
My first expedition was Expedition 17. It was the expedition after that Columbus was launched.
Wow, and you, Sergio?
16.
Okay.
So I started the Columbus launch.
So you guys have known each other quite a long time then.
Yes, we've been.
All right. Should I have sat between the two of you? Well, we're enjoying this as you are out there. Stay tuned. We still got a few more slides to go by here. We're talking to two ESA representatives here to launch Axiom 4, which of course is a private commercial mission. Any difference in dealing with a private company than with dealing with the Soviet Union or NASA?
I think definitely is different. I will reply from the training point of view. I mean, we have completely different crew member. We have professional astronaut that, as you have seen before, have went through a lot of training before they get assigned. While with the commercial mission, we have crew member which needs to be trained usually in around 6 months. Of course, they will stay only 2 weeks in orbit, and they are going only to perform the science that they are bringing together. So the training program is extremely compressed, I would say, also by the means of the duration of the mission. But of course, the way we train is totally different in a certain sense, and that's a nice difference. If you think that in the shuttle program we were also very lot training procedure, because we needed the crew to be efficient, because we had a lot of experiment. So we trained procedure. With the station and with a 6 months mission, we could not train or procedure. Would that been a training for 3-4 years? Too long. So we redesigned the training to train skills. So we train skills that they can reuse in several different procedure. With the commercial crew, we went back to procedure, because we need them to be efficient, because they have less experience than the professional astronaut, and therefore we went back to the shuttle type of training, where procedure take a much more importance to be gone through, I would say.
You, Sergio, difference between the NASA, Russia, and a private company?
I mean, the Axiom 4 mission is launching through the private astronaut mission framework, right? So it's called PAM. So NASA basically awards these contracts to private companies. And so the framework of operation is a bit different, because normally we work directly with NASA. Now in this situation, we need to work with Axiom and with NASA. And ESA in particular, in the Axiom missions, we are particular customers, differently, for example, from India, right? Because India is customer to Axiom, and then Axiom deals with NASA, right? In the case of ESA, we are an international partner of the ISS. We have our own laboratory on board, but we fly our astronauts via Axiom. And so it's kind of a trilateral framework where we work together with Axiom and we work together with NASA to fly this mission. And this is a bit different, but like from the mission management perspective, the big difference is that it's a 2 weeks mission. Like when we run an expedition, it's 6 months. If you have a problem, you have the time to go offline, look into it, look at the telemetry, look and analyze, and then next week we do a meeting to discuss, and the week after we try the activity again, right? Here is 2 weeks. You don't have time to wait for next week for analysis. Like the mission will be over, and so we have to be on a much faster pace. So for us, it's a completely different level of workload during the operations.
The Axiom astronauts are going to be up there probably 2 weeks,
Yeah.
like you said there. So, but they'll be on Peggy factor time, right?
Yeah,
They'll be on
that's
Peggy
what we
time.
hope. Yes.
Yeah, which if you joined us late, Peggy Whitson is known for speeding her crews up. He said, Sergio said she gets the work done in half the time, and everyone's
All the time, like at some point in the day, she was like, "I finished my task for today. What can I do that is scheduled tomorrow?"
wow.
All the time, and Thomas Pesquet was flying with her, and like it was the same. Like all of them, they were like, "We're done, and there's still 3 hours to go. What can we do?"
Huh. Well, she is an amazing person. I've never met her. Can't wait to one day. But hell, she may this is her 5th mission. She may, who knows when she'll quit. But 65 years old, and yeah, Peggy Whitson. That's why you're in the Hall of Fame. Let's go through some of these. And take your time if you want.
As I said, I mean, space station is a cooperation between international partner, and I just have here the training site where the crew is trained. So we have Cologne where we train the European part. We have JSC where NASA is training the crew. On the bottom left we have Star City in Russia.
Okay.
We have JAXA, the Japanese Space Agency in Tsukuba, and of course on the right, Montreal in Canada because they are responsible for the body car.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Marty. So that's in Montreal.
Yeah, the bottom right is Montreal.
That's a beautiful looking facility
It is.
from up there. Marty's got a question for you from RG Jubilee.
Well, we have 2 questions, Mark. We have one from Dean Babcock first. In the maintenance of the Columbus module, are there long lead times for spare parts that may be needed?
Absolutely, and so this is why we preposition spares. So, and it's the same that NASA is doing, right? So we have analyzed what are the critical anomalies that could bring to serious trouble. And so for the critical anomalies, we have prepositioned spares on board. We cannot preposition everything on board. We have Altec, which is a center in Torino in Italy, who's responsible for the logistics, and they have all the spares in a store there, ready to be launched. And so in some cases, you have an anomaly, you won't have a spare part on board. It's not that we need to build the spare. The spare is already built and already in a store, and we just need to manifest it for the next vehicle and launch it. But sometimes the next launcher is in 3-4 months, and then you have to wait. So this is why we put the very critical spares are on board.
Next question, Marty.
From RG Jubilee. How many toilets are on the space station? Is there a different one for each ship that's attached?
I think it's only one.
There's a Russian and there's there are 2, and there's one in the Dragon. So there's one in the Node 3. It's called the Waste Hygiene Compartment, WHC, and there's one in the Russian segment. Actually, they are the same hardware. And then usually there's one in the Dragon.
Okay. I wonder if okay, so with 2 dragons up there.
Yeah, but I think they don't use the one in the Dragon when they are on board, because the WHC, they recycle almost everything, right? They recycle the water out of it.
Okay. All right. Great questions, everybody.
Oh yeah, that's a big part of my job actually, because we say that
That's a video game. Pong.
it looks
Or
like
something looks
but
like, yeah.
actually
Centipede.
every color is a country.
Okay.
Blue is US.
What's blues US? Okay.
Blue is US. Yellow is Russia. We have green, which is ESA. This pinkish is Canada. And then
JAXA.
we have
blue.
JAXA. The red is quarantine and launch, prime and backup. Basically, what we do at the beginning when we get a crew, we build this, which is called the training template. Basically, we
Is
know
that a timeline on the bottom?
it's a timeline. So the name of the astronaut will be on the left, and the x-axis will be the time.
Awesome.
So we know exactly how long it will take for the crew to be trained, because we know each single astronaut what kind of skill they need to get. So we build the template, and basically then That's the first step, and we meet with our international partner 3 times a year. So we go around a table physically, face to face, and we discuss how to align the training and the template, because basically you are managing the life of an astronaut, because whatever they need to do, once they are assigned, they need to talk to us, because we need to find the space into the template to make sure that everything can happen in time for the launch, because we have usually a hard launch date. So we need to complete the training. Yeah. Vehicle training, this is the Soyuz. The crew train in the Soyuz as a complete crew.
Mock-up.
Yeah, that's the mock-up in Russia. With a suited simulation, they do unsuited and suited simulation. In this case, is a suited one. You can go forward, and what we want the crew to experience is the acceleration they will get over the launch.
Okay.
The
Gs.
The Gs, exactly. The G's path, actually. And they do this both here in US, but also in Russia. So we run basically the G profile so that they can exactly experience what they will experience during the launch.
Oh, I didn't know they did that.
They,
Could
this is
simulate that.
this is important to give the crew the chance to experience the acceleration load, the nominal acceleration load, so that you can basically know exactly what to expect when you really launch.
Alright.
Yeah, and that's Luca in Russia, and that's the centrifuge. You can move forward.
Oh, the centrifuge.
Yeah, that's the centrifuge.
Whew,
It's a
boy, you ain't gonna get me
that's
in
a
that.
small one, actually. In Russia, there is also a bigger one that they do also for medical testing, but this is the one they use to simulate the launch and re-entry profile. Part of their training is also what we call survival training, because of course, if something goes wrong with the re-entry and they may land in an area which is not covered by the re-entry, the recovery team, of course they will need to survive with what they have. Of course, in Russia is a bit more complex, because during winter you have winter survival. You can move forward. We also have water landing for the Soyuz, which is the baseline actually for
Cannonball.
for the US
Cannonball time.
vehicle, but they practice the exit and even the emergency exit in this case. If you are assigned to a US vehicle, we see here Thomas Pesquet in the simulator of the Crew Dragon, and you see the totally different design of the cockpit in this case, which is totally digital. And also a big difference between the two vehicles is that the Soyuz you can switch in manual mode, and so this means the crew is trained to manually command the Soyuz. For the Dragon, this is totally automated, so the crew cannot really influence the path. They are just monitoring the parameters to make sure that everything is nominal. So a totally different approach in this case. Water landing, which is part of the nominal for the US capsule, as we say, that there's no ground landing for
Starliner.
Starliner
simulator.
is able to land on the ground,
Yeah.
for example. And then there is the space station training part, and you can go a bit forward. Of course, there is not all the training is practical. There is the beginning of the training, which is
I
also
recognize Luca and his
yeah.
bald head
Actually,
there.
it's Luca and Chris Cassidy, most probably, if I'm not wrong. They start training on the in classroom, then they move to mock-up, and of course they train on the various module of the ISS. They learn how to command the station and the subsystem. Of course, as I say, there is part of the maintenance. This is the Columbus mock-up. That's the deck, the floor, because actually to maintain a sort of orientation to the crew, up down is not really meaning, but usually is designed in such way that the bottom, let's say the nadir part is dedicated to the equipment that is commanding the model, so that the crew is not always working and losing this up and down that
disorientation. would be
exactly.
crazy
We
up
try
there.
to help. Of course, we have also racks on the bottom, but it's a kind of design guideline that
And
Yeah.
I'm thinking what we discussed before, the future space station, right? This is how the ISS was built.
Yes.
We need to see how the new space stations will be, right? And so certain solutions actually don't foresee this type of up and down
Yes.
environment. Like on the ISS, we have really the floor and the ceiling and the walls, right? This is how we work. The astronauts usually work on the walls, so basically standing. So we kept, let's say, even if they are in microgravity, we kept these up and down.
Yeah, you don't
environment.
want them on the hands and knees doing
Right, but it
typing and
doesn't.
stuff like
It's
that.
not necessarily the most efficient solution.
Yes,
So
that's-
for the
Yeah,
future space
yeah.
station, they're looking for alternative options and like doing like more like octagonal shapes or things like this.
So the design is gravity influenced by things that they can train on, like you
Up
said.
to now has been like this, but
Yeah.
of course there's no real strong reason
Right.
to use this because you could work easily on any surface basically. And as I said, additional maintenance, working on the back of the racks. And of course, for doing the maintenance, you need tools. And you can see, now you can go forward to the next one. You can see in the upper left, that's the tool set that they have on the space
Okay.
station. So they are trained on the use of all the tools. And you see this drawer, you can see Luca watching into the drawers. We have two big kits there, plus also in Columbus we have a specific tool set.
Is that a hammer?
Yeah, there is any kind of tool.
All right.
Really.
Okay.
One of the things that people don't realize is how many things we lose on the
Yeah.
space station, because it's big and because there's no gravity, you don't drop the pencil on the table, right? So if you leave it there, it will start floating away. And so a lot of tools, we have them duplicated because we have lost many tools. Like you lose them and you don't find them ever anymore.
Well, you may have read a few months ago the tomatoes that were put in a Ziploc bag and lost, and they were found months after by other astronauts in one of the grid. You know,
Tomatoes.
air circulation is forced on the space station. So the crew knows that if they lose something after a while, they go on the return grid of this flow and they look there because usually slowly they are sucked
in the
and they
grate-
arrive to the
grate of the
grid.
filter
yeah,
system
yeah,
there,
exactly,
yes, okay.
exactly.
Yeah, very, very interesting there. Yes, that's never saw pictures of the tools. I have to look that up. There's the tools again. Looks like
And
you
of
just roll
course-
that up and put it under your back seat
And
like
we
I
have
do in my car.
Of course,
metric
exactly.
and imperial.
Oh, okay,
Of course.
both. Huh?
Yes.
Yeah,
So
because you have European and you have American stuff, and so and European and Japanese work with metric, and American stuff work
Yeah.
with imperial, and so
every
Americans just
And they-
resist metric. I
Yeah.
tell you, I don't know why. In a way, it's easy to count in tens than it is 12s.
yeah. Another big part of the training is the emergency. We train the crew extensively on the emergency as a single crew, but also as a full expedition. So we try in the big template you have seen before to align crew members that they will be on orbit together. And in that week, which we align, we run the full crew emergency, which means that we train with a crew of 7 and we run emergency cases so that the entire crew knows exactly what to do in case of emergency. And especially when we have also visiting crew, like in this case Axiom 4, we practice emergency also with we try to align. Sometimes it's not easy, but we try to align so that they can train with the full crew, because emergency is an extremely important part and we hope they will never perform it, but they need to be ready.
So they get up there and dock hopefully Wednesday. The first thing they do is go emergency training. It would be
So
one of
they-
the first
they do it,
protocols.
yes.
Yeah.
So the first 2 days on board are dedicated to basically safety and emergency training. So the expedition crew, who is on board for a while and are much more trained than the commercial astronauts, they will basically do a handover. So they will explain them where is what, everything, and then discuss about emergency and do some emergency training. But of course, emergencies can always happen, and
Yeah, and you
if
need
it
to
happens
be
in
ready.
these 2 weeks, the short duration astronauts have to be trained for it.
Yeah.
Well, we're enjoying Luca and Sergio here. Hope you are as much as me. Gosh, you guys have been involved with the space station for over 50 of the expeditions. We're up to 73. You said 17 and 16. That's just incredible. You kind of know the thing inside out, do you?
We were watching the pictures of the astronauts
Yes.
in the other room, and it's like it's,
I know
it's
it, I
impressive
know,
how
I
many
know.
of them we know.
Yeah.
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 That is amazing. Yeah, you know that whole wall over there.
Exactly.
We were looking at our
Yeah.
women's gallery with
Yes.
83 women on space up there. They're the old veterans of the ESA space agency.
Yeah,
there.
and you know, of course, when you have emergency, you can be in any part of the space station. Before we have seen Samantha wearing the USOS face mask. In this case, we are in the Russian segment. So if you are there, you will wear the mask in the Russian segment, which are slightly different from
Oh,
the.
yeah.
Yeah, you see, they are different. Even the cartridge you see on the right, they are different on the different case of emergency on the USOS, because you have you can have fire like the one that Samantha is wearing, but you have cartridge that you can install for the ammonia leak, for example. So they need to be trained on all this and make sure they can assemble also properly.
That looks very sci-fi there. That certainly does.
Yeah,
There's
and of
Samantha.
course we discussed about the EVA that we discussed it before for the generic part, but you get trained on the specific EVA once you are assigned. Of course, you are trained on. If you are assigned to an EVA, you will practice several times the choreography of the EVA you are assigned. Otherwise, you can be trained on generic maintenance that you need to be trained to, so that you are qualified to go out in case anything happen.
Mhm.
And we have several different means also to train the EVA. That's the Pogo, which is in JSC. Of course, it's is also a way to practice, for example, in this case, part of the choreography. But we also have virtual reality simulator where you can practice an EVA to maybe move from and reach your work location. Because you know, in the MBL you will not have the full mock-up of the station, so you need other means if you need to practice.
How
Let's say,
accurate to
very
basic.
high, very high.
very high.
Yeah.
And are you involved in the mission EVA training, or just the timelines, or?
No, like in principle, training is just one of the aspects. Of
Well,
the
I mean,
mission, right?
actual EVAs. You have, but have any role in there?
No, the VAs are led by NASA.
Okay.
Normally. So this like we follow them, and if there is one of our astronauts involved, of course we need to follow it for the safety of our astronaut. But it's under the responsibility.
Yeah.
of NASA.
Speaking of Peggy Whitson going up on her fifth flight, she's done 10 EVAs. I think she'll probably do 2 or 3 more, and she could be the. What do you think?
The commercial astronaut, she
Astronaut,
probably will
yeah.
not do any VA anymore,
Yeah.
right? Like she left NASA, now she's flying for Axiom.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Only NASA does the
Yeah.
EVAs. So.
NASA and ESA, like.
Well, I was hoping she do, but with right, 10 days with Axiom. Yeah. I keep thinking she's going to be up there 6 months. Wish she was. Go ahead, Marty. Question.
Yeah, we have a question from Marvel Luke Empire 33. Do you do the same training as NASA astronauts, flight training, etc.?
No, we don't do actually flight training. Usually the flight training is done earlier, but we don't have a specific program for the crew to fly, for example, the T-38. We are really more concentrated on the technical part from that perspective. So we don't do the flight training like NASA does.
But if, like in the end, a European astronaut will have done a very similar training that an American astronaut.
Yeah.
At least the one for the mission assignment, right? Like.
Yes, mission assignment is very similar. So once you are assigned, we work together.
I think
and we make sure that the training is built upon each other. At the
one
end of-
important aspect is that once an ESA astronaut is on board, they don't differ from the NASA astronauts or from the JAXA astronauts, right? Like we have had ESA astronauts which were commander of the space station, right? And or the other way around. Like in the end, they all fly under NASA authority, right? And we all do all the ESA operation on the space station is under the supervision and authority of NASA. And the same is for the astronauts. So it doesn't once they are up there, it doesn't make a big difference if the astronaut is ESA, if it's JAXA, or if it's NASA.
Even the basic training, the topic covered in the basic training, and internationally agreed. So basically, if you get basic training in ESA, is the same as getting it at NASA. So from that perspective, we are pretty much aligned and concur on the training requirement and implementation.
Poised here a few days from launch. Sergio, what keeps you up at night, if anything?
A lot of things. It's impressive. Like we've been preparing this mission for now 1.5 years intensively, and it's impressive how many things still pop up at like 3 days from launch. It's there's a lot of things that always come up. I would say we are 99% ready to go. But it's like the Pandora's box. Whenever you look into it, you find something. And so we keep finding things because we keep looking into it. We like the whole point is to think about it in advance so that you find problems in advance and resolve them before they actually go there. And hopefully that will, allow us to have a more efficient mission.
How about you, Luca? Anything keep you up at night last week or two?
I would say my job finish when they enter quarantine, usually most of the time, because we basically completed the training and certified them. Of course, we have a bit of baseline data collection, which is related to human experiment, human physiology experiment, but most of the job is basically done and completed before.
All right. We just got a few more slides here. This is
Yeah,
a basic program that Luca's done on your PowerPoint several times, I would gather.
Yeah,
From school groups to college
correct,
groups and
correct.
so forth.
As Sergio said, we believe that we need to inspire also young people, and this is part of what we do when we go into school and present our job to students.
But we certainly appreciate you sharing this with us. It certainly is a very unique and wonderful Stay Curious episode today.
And then, of course, part of the robotic arm specific to the mission, so they can not only command the robotic arm right now, they use it for mainly two things, to capture a vehicle and bring it to the station, and of course for maintenance. And we have a simulator, a JSC called the Dome, where basically they have a real console and a cupola, and we have with virtual reality they can basically train on specific tasks.
How do you fly your ESA astronauts to JSC? Just commercial flight?
Yeah, they fly commercial.
Okay. But you tell the pilot, hey, you've got some precious cargo here?
Actually not. We have been using only during the pandemic specific flight, because I mean that was extremely critical. So we kind of kept them in quarantine also during the training in a certain sense to make sure they could fly. And here is the dome that I was talking before, with the virtual reality simulation on top, and the approach to the I think is a Cygnus there that is buried to the station.
Well, you guys being old timers, virtual reality wasn't around when you were starting your career.
No, but I have to say it's quite some years that we use virtual reality, and this is more and more a branch that we are expanding also to train the crew. I mean, if you think at travel to Mars, and we are thinking about how do we train the crew, we cannot just train them on ground. We will have to use also the time they have on the travel to Mars. So virtual reality becomes extremely important to give them the chance to practice.
And we have had an experiment
Yes.
in the last years called VR OBT, so an onboard training with virtual reality. So we have a VR headset on board, and we have, as a technology demonstration, we have tested the possibility of doing training on board with virtual reality.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then science, of course. We have talked a lot about all the rest, but then a big part also of their training is science. In this case, human physiology experiments. So experiment on the human body are extremely important, because the crew lives in an environment for which, and I say on purpose an engineering word, we are not designed to live there. So this means that we need to understand what are the effects of the microgravity on the human body, and we constantly study the crew. Here we see one of the experiments that Sergio was saying before. This is GRASP, which is a neurophysiology experiment. So what they wanted to do is to decouple the eyesight from the movement, there is a lot of coordination when we try to grasp thing. It's basically our eye that elaborate the signal and guide our hand to grasp certain object. So the objective of the study was to decouple the eyesight from the movement and see if there is a kind of effect that it's different on ground from the on orbit condition.
Okay, Marty, we'll use Marvel's question to go out on our program here in a few minutes there. When I look at this picture, gentlemen, I think of what the Chinese space station Tiangong looks like inside. Not as many wires and stuff. They're using a lot of Bluetooth, aren't they?
Yeah, but like I think the mass that we have on this ISS is a testament to how much science we do. Like there's so much mass because we have like a lot of vehicles going up and down, bringing new science, bringing down old science, and so we have no space to put all the, like every experiment is a piece of hardware, and we need to fly the hardware, run the experiments, throw it away, fly another piece of hardware. And so when we fly something, that something will have to stay stored somewhere because we are waiting to finish the previous experiment. So the fact that you see so many things and so many cables and so, it's because there's really a lot of science ongoing.
Yeah.
And it was not the case 15 years ago, for example. When we started and there was not so much science,
it was clean and neat.
It was much cleaner.
That is some great insight, guys. Really, that makes perfect sense to me. You're not going to unplug this over the right because you're just going to move something next to it and share the same plug-in or whatever on
exactly.
there. Tremendous, yeah.
We have a thing which is called plug-in plan. It's one of the things.
Plug-in plan.
Yeah, it's a plan of the plugs.
Okay.
Right. So like we have a limited number of plugs, and you have more items than the plugs, right? And so it's called plug-in plan, and it's a plan like again under the supervision of NASA, but we also contribute to that where we make a plan what goes to which plug throughout the mission.
Interesting.
And you need to plan it because otherwise you go there and you find the plug which is busy with something else, and you can't do your experiments.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And they call up you or Luca and say, this wasn't in training. There's supposed to be a plug over here. Is that?
Could happen.
That happens? Okay.
Yeah, other experiment picture. Here is another response, I would say, experiment, because there is a series of experiments that study the ability of the crew to remote command item in space. For example, being in a space station around Mars, you will command robots on ground, for example. So we need to know how their response will be, and there are a series of experiments that try to understand if there is a difference from remote commanding items from ground and on ISS. And basically that is the completion of their training with the science part. So we can move faster over here, and other experiment picture, and you can go forward. Medical testing in the centrifuge. This is the big centrifuge that is in GCTC to qualify the crew. Of course, we train them also on the usage of media item, because they are not only needed to document what they do, sometimes we use them also for science. Don't forget that usually we have asked several times the crew to take picture of hurricane developing on Earth, because usually they are the first to see the developing cloud. So that's also part of their training. We can move forward. Yeah, food tasting, another big part that we do over the training. The crew taste several food items.
I was looking at the canister there. That looks like the Russian food.
That's Russian food. That's correct.
Because it's always in a can.
Yes,
right?
exactly. That's the main difference between U.S. oil
see right
food.
there the can that she's
Yeah,
eating out
yeah.
of some good old borscht there, out of there.
One thing we do at ESA, which I don't think the NASA does, is we call it bonus food. So every astronaut will work with one chef of their choice to make a selection of special food of their country, but basically
where they grew up,
made for space. Yes. So like now Sławomir has worked with a chef from Warsaw, and he will fly with the pierogi and with some apple crumble, there with some tomato soup, but like
no Polish sausage.
no,
Heavy.
no, I think there is no sausage. Yeah.
Okay.
But like, but the thing is, they have to readapt the normal food to something that can be done freeze dried and flow to space, right? And
Mhm.
so it's a difficult process.
Mhm.
And every time a European astronaut flies, they fly their bonus food package, and then they share it with the other astronauts on board.
I wonder what that Indian astronaut's taking up there. There's some curry for sure. And boy, Krista Ferretti, she's the star of your program here. You know her well, do you?
Yeah. Well, I worked with her in both missions that she flew. I was her training lead, and here we see, for example,
How much do the experienced astronaut like her get into the training to the rookies with you? Are they mentoring the rookies more than?
well, we take the chances that they talk to each other and share, especially bringing them the knowledge from a space flight, because as a first flyer, what you are lacking is what to really expect on the station. So we really make sure that they talk to each other so that they can pass all the information that are specific, that we usually are not embedded into the training because are part of the real life on the ISF.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, of course, I use this picture to say that at the end of the training there is always an exam, and this is true on the Russian side. They really go through a real exam to qualify on the Soyuz. They have the chance to choose between three letters with the anomaly inside. So the crew picks the envelope with the anomalies, and then they go into the Soyuz and they run, and they are qualified, and they get
Bingo!
their
Away
grade,
they go.
and then they are ready to launch.
That's a beautiful shot. Have you attended launches at Bacanora?
I was lucky enough to see a shuttle launch when I supported Paolo Nespoli STS-120. Then I was supporting the family of Luca Parmitano in Russia, so I was able to see a Soyuz launch, and this is my first launch of a Dragon.
Oh, well, Marty, I'm not going to show the last slides there. We're done with our slides there. And boy, we are so appreciative to you two ESA experts here. I've learned so much, and my privilege is I can talk to them after the show here. But you've got some great questions there. Is there something that we haven't asked you, Sergio, that you'd like our audience to know about ESA or this mission coming up in future ones?
I think we have talked about it and like how cool it is, but also like I always encourage to look into all the science that we do. There is a very nice publication by NASA which is called the ISS Benefits for Humanity.
Yes.
Which shows like all the science we do is not like just science for space travel, it's science for life on Earth. There's so many applications. I was asked recently what is my best example for application of science on Earth, and it's ice cream. Like we've done,
Ice cream.
we've cooperated with some food producing companies because of the way foams behave in microgravity. They behave differently than on ground, because on ground the liquids go down and so the foam goes away. In space it's much more stable, and so we study foam physics in space, and that have helped to improve the production processes for dairy products. And that increases the shelf life. So every time you go to the supermarket and buy yogurt which expires in a month, maybe it's because there was some space research done.
I got
and
you.
it
Instead of
increases.
expiring in 2 weeks, and that
Exactly.
was in there. Luca, something that we haven't asked you, you'd like to
No,
share?
I think one point that probably we didn't stress a lot, but which is one of the biggest value, I think, of the space station is the cooperation. I mean, we are cooperating together, and I'm talking about NASA, ESA, JAXA, Roscosmos. So today,
Canada.
Canada. I mean, today the space station is the only program which sees us still working all together, and this is a real great value for humanity. I mean, we should learn that we can work together when we have an objective together, you know. And I think this is an extremely important value also coming from the ISS.
Well said. And we've been talking on our Stay Curious program for years. Why hasn't the International Space Station been given the Nobel Peace Prize?
It was, I think it was candidate at some point.
It was nominated and it was shot down because it's a thing and not a
Yeah.
person.
Mhm.
And yet over 300 persons have benefited from this. And any comments about China and their Tiangong and being so private and no partners? And
It's a tricky one, right? Unfortunately, space is, cutting edge technology, and so US. If you work with China, you can't work with US, right? It's like
Yes.
because we all work under the US military export control regulations, the ITAR, right? And so every program in Europe needs to be ITAR certified to work with the Americans in space on the ISS, and so the same person would not be allowed to work together with China.
unfortunate situation now, and it's politics and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But that's a good way to
But
put it.
I
there.
think definitely is a good thing that they also go to space. It increases the number of people in space, and I'm sure they're doing cutting edge science as well.
Okay, we know we've had a long program here, but I see an interesting question. How do they take care of astronauts' cuts and bruises?
They happen. They happen, and like sometimes you'll see an astronaut with like a plaster on their forehead, and it's like, what happened there? And we don't get to know, right? This is like, of course, you protect the privacy,
Medical
the medical
things
part.
are,
But
yeah.
they have their own surgeons. They have their own private medical conference, they are called, and with the doctors they talk their things. But sometimes small things happen, but like a lot we try to prevent. So there's one of the hazards, so called, in space is finger pinching, because you don't have weight, but you still have inertia, right? And so they move some stuff which is very heavy.
So your hand gets caught
And
between
exactly,
something.
exactly. And so there is, you need to be
Yeah,
careful
ouch.
about that. You have
do that here on Earth all the time.
and the thing is that if you cut your finger here is a certain impact, but if an astronaut cuts their finger and that they cannot work well and they are not so efficient anymore, like it's a big cost, right? And so we try to protect that they don't get injured, and I think we've never had serious injuries on board.
Right.
But some small cuts and bruises sometimes, you don't like. I think it doesn't happen when we do work because we are like so aware of the safety and we try to control everything. But then in their free time, you don't know what they do, right? So,
Playing Superman,
yeah,
I hit my
exactly.
head on the wall there, and I
then
got a Band-Aid.
you see the video that they play football, they do somersaults and things like this.
Yeah, you see all those
Yeah.
antics up there. Great. We've had a tremendous amount of you watching today. Nick Sedler, thank you for watching. Alexandra is in Brazil. Cliff Watson's in Australia. We got Michael Bruno. I think he's in Miami down the way there. Elena's in South America watching. Doug Forrest is in Los
South Africa.
Angeles. Pardon me?
South Africa.
South Africa. Thank you, Marty. Elena, sorry there. Doug Forrest is watching in Los Angeles. Dr. Keith Sewell, he's in Arkansas. Mark Usiak and his brother Tom are in Pennsylvania. Daria, your wife, where's your home now?
In Munich.
Cologne, in Munich. Hope you enjoyed your husband on the show here. Tom Celentano's in Connecticut. Carlton Bailey's just about 15 miles down the road in Canaveral Groves. RG Jubilee, Marvella, Mitch Rothman's in Colorado. Dean Babcock in Illinois. Robert Law in Dundee, Scotland. Mark Thels in Illinois. Steve Jokums. I know you've enjoyed this, Steve. He's a big supporter of our museum in Illinois. Dave Stangy's in Michigan, and Chris Callie in the great state of Connecticut up there. Hope that you've all really enjoyed the program as much as I have here. And final thoughts, any one of you all? Just thank you so much.
Yeah.
I
Thanks.
think we ended up talking much more. You see, like we never stop, right?
Yeah.
Like we could talk
We could talk
hours
forever.
and
I know,
hours and
well,
hours.
I know you could, and I hope you know that you've made some new good friends online out there as well as
Sure.
here at the American Space Museum, I look forward to seeing you on your next visits here.
Sure.
Marty, thank you for a great Streamlabs job there on what was a program that just came together. And thank you, Kel, for putting it all together there for us there, Alex Carl. So, gentlemen, good luck to the Axiom launch. And good luck on seeing your first launch tonight. I think you want to go to the beach over there. I'll tell you how to get to Cape Canaveral to the little street party that's going on. There'll be a rock and roll band there and vendors with some just selling things and food and like that. So, and it's been a great week here at the American Space Museum, all because of you wanting to stay curious with us here. And I have a usual way that I sign out by saying thank you, everybody, for watching our program today. Please share it with other people. And we know you Europeans will be sharing this and finding our American Space Museum this way. So until next time, I'm Mark Marquette saying I can't wait to see you again to bridge the space between us. Thank you.